Thank you very much for the kind introduction and invitation. So today I want to share some insights onto how health data and artificial intelligence can innovate clinical research, and I want to convince you that, as beautifully mentioned, this is really a game changer. Now, clinical trials are the backbone of developing new innovative medicines. At the same time, many trials do fail. So have you ever wondered why? One reason is that the medicines that we are developing are getting more and more personalized, more complex in nature, but at the same time, they can benefit patients way better. The methods that we use to assess those drugs in clinical trials basically stayed the same over the last decade. So there's a growing disconnect between those two things. Now, what if we could predict the success of a clinical trial before it even starts? What if we could tailor a clinical trial perfectly to the patients in needs? Which sounds like a super vision to do. If you just think about clinical research like a giant jigsaw puzzle, AI is really helping us to put the pieces into place. It's not the only tool, but a very, very powerful one. If we go one step back and look just at the development of an innovative medicine, you may have been seeing this already. I'll quickly walk you through that we are all on the same page. So, very left, we find targets, things that we want to drug to help the people. So once we found the targets in the body, we are developing those molecules. We create molecules that fit fantastically into those pockets and then have the desired effect. Then we test those molecules in labs, preclinically, then we go to clinical trials, and at the end, hopefully, it makes the race to an approval to then support patients in needs. There are some challenges associated with it. It's really a marathon. So it takes over a decade for a medicine to be developed and approved. It is not very cheap. And last but not least, as said in the beginning, 90% of all molecules that enter clinical trials, they fail on the way. So you see this system is not sustainable because those numbers are getting more and more extreme. And we need to change this. And data is the key, data and AI to really reinvent this process. And data is surrounding us all. And 30% of all the data worldwide is health data. It's not from cars, it's not fines, it's health data. At the very same time, 97% of all those data is not being used. So we need to change this. Yeah. In Germany, we have a unique opportunity. You are aware maybe that there have been some laws. The electronic patient record is being introduced. Nearly 80% of the population is willing to use it, and we expect about 65% to really use it by this year. And this is fantastic because this is what you need for research. At Novartis, we have also quite some data handy. So we are running a lot of clinical trials, nearly 200 a year in Germany, where we also create health data that can help us in developing new drugs. So going back to this process of development of a clinical, of a medicine, this, what you see here, is the evidence, the data that is being generated cumulatively over the journey, yeah? Mostly by clinical trials. Now, this is very important for regulators, for us to really prove that the medicines are safe, they are effective. Now, with the emergence of real-world data, yeah, so the data that comes from hospitals, from your Apple Watch, Oura Ring, whatever it is, we can augment those data significantly. Those data can give you insights how to design a drug? Yeah? What are the patient populations look like? Do we find those patients that we need to enroll for a clinical trial? It can help us to get a label expansion for a medicine. So it's really augmenting those evidence, and then I'm convinced that it's not only augmenting the evidence, but also accelerating the development time to get back to a healthy norm, and at the same time staying and keeping up the quality that we have to have really safe and effective medicines. Now, for today, I brought two distinct examples onto how actually we use those data and AI to make a difference for our patients. So the first one is around precision medicine. So this is really about better understanding the diseases, better understanding the treatments, the treatment effects. And the second use case is how we use digital twins to accelerate and bring our clinical trials to the next episode. So with regards to precision medicine, let's talk about psoriasis arthritis. It's a rheumatologist disease which is rather complex. So the patient journey for somebody getting first symptoms till actually being treated the right way takes some time. And one aspect is that although there are many fantastic medicines out there, everybody is individualized and needs a specific treatment per se. So one of those drugs is secukinumab. Secukinumab works very well. It got approved by the FDA and EMA with 150 milligrams of a dosage. And then people were getting it. After some time, so I think it's about a year, EMA and FDA were convinced that also a higher dosage could give a benefit to the patients. So they expanded the label to not only use 150 milligrams, but also 300 milligrams. At the same time, physicians and patients, and also we weren't really sure which patients do benefit from the low dose, which from the high dose. We knew that it's safe. We knew that both are effective, but not how much. So luckily, with the start of secukinumab being administered in Germany, we started a clinical trial, a so-called observational trial, where basically we included patients under routine treatment and monitored how they were doing. We also monitored, of course, how much secukinumab they were getting. So in the beginning, there were always 150 milligrams. Why? Well, because it was a label. It was only approved for 150 milligrams. But then after the label change, also patient came in with 300 milligrams. So now we had this cohort of 2,000-3,000 patients, all being treated differently. We had many data around them, of course, the history, biomarkers, size, weight, whatever it is. So then basically we could say, okay, we just separate the patients getting 150 milligrams, patient getting 300 milligrams, and compare them and see how the difference is. We cannot do, because we would have a bias, right? I mean, it could be that physicians cautiously or uncautiously prescribe a specific subset of patients that are, I don't know, old, young, more heavy, less heavy, the 300 milligrams. So it wasn't an option. Instead, we took those data and applied a double machine learning algorithm that basically took care of this bias and then could predict for an individual patient how the quality of life would change if they would take a 150 milligram or a 300 milligram dosage. And so far, so good. So what? What do we do with these results? So we went back and used the model to basically build a decision tree where with very, very easy decisions, physician could look if the patient would benefit more numerically, or significantly from an updosing. And this is what we did, and patients and physicians were quite happy about it. So now the second one is about digital twins. So now how can we accelerate and optimize our clinical trials? What you usually do in a clinical trial is you want to prove that your new innovative medicine is effective and safe, right? So what you do is you take a cohort, let's say 2,000 people, and then for every of those 2,000 people, you roll the dice. Yeah? And either they are getting the new innovative treatment you want to test, or they are getting the placebo group. Yeah? They're getting standard of care or placebo. So you flip the coin or roll the dice every time. So you end up with 1,000 patients that are getting the new medicine, 1,000 patients that are receiving the standard of care. And then at the end, you basically compare those two groups in outcome. So now the question is, why do we need to do this? Why do we need to have the standard of care or placebo group? Of course, to compare the outcomes, but why do we need to take this data every single time? We know what's going to happen to a patient if she is getting a placebo or a standard of care. At least there is data out there where the information is hidden what will happen, because it's happening on a daily basis, right? So now there are some instances where you can waive this control. For rare diseases, some oncology indications, because of feasibility, rare diseases, you do not find enough patients to participate in a trial. In oncology, due to ethical considerations, of course. But why not in cardiology? Why not in diabetes? And the reason is that in the end, you have the comparison with an external data set, usually if you go to oncology or rare disease, and those are different. Yeah, you're somehow comparing apples with oranges, because in your new trial, people might be younger. You might take measurements at different time points, whatever. It's better than nothing, but you get a certain error within, yeah? And this error is fair to take for, again, rare disease, oncology, but not any others. So now, and here the digital twin comes in. So what we do is we include now patients. For every single patient, we take the baseline data. Yeah? We take data about their health, what they're getting, disease, whatnot. And then they're getting the new innovative treatment, and we're following over time. So now, out of those patients, we make a digital twin. Yeah? So we take all information about those patients that we enroll into a trial and make a digital version, a virtual version inside the computer, and we use AI and other methods to then simulate what would have happened to this patient if she would have gotten the standard of care or placebo. And with this change, you're not comparing apples with oranges anymore, but green apples with red apples first. Why? Because, well, you don't have all the data from patient, and the models are not perfect. Yeah? So still, you have a difference. But the more data we take, the better the models are getting. We are more and more moving towards comparing red apples from Aldi with red apples from Rewe. At some point, red apples from Aldi in both cases. So this is a journey that takes quite some time. We started a research project a couple of years back on this together with the University of Erlangen, Professor Björn Escoffier, and have the first results, so it's really going forward. But this is a long journey ahead of us, and again, it's not that you have at some point you got it, it's getting better and better. So you want to shift the needle to not only apply those methods at rare disease and oncology, but stepwise bring those further. So now, what are our barriers that they are holding us back? Yeah? I showed you that we have a wealth of health data in the beginning, and we do have. The challenge is, particularly in Germany, that this health data resides in silos. Everybody is having some part of the data. I am having some in my iPhone, you're having some, you as well. Some is at the physicians, some at the clinics, insurance companies. So we really need to get the infrastructure right there. We have still very likely debate about data privacy, which is super important, but we need to balance this off with innovation. Standardization, interoperability needs to be also handled, and infrastructure, I always thought. So I believe that the main breakthrough will be partnerships, alliances. So this is a journey that not one stakeholder, one company can go alone. It's really about everybody is working together. A lot can be done right now. I've showed you a few examples. There are many others. So it's there. We need to work together, share our data, of course, responsibly. Yeah? We need to work on interoperability. We need to showcase that those data that we are getting, that we are using, brings a benefit to everybody of us. And we need to take as many as possible with us on this journey. So with this, my ask and question to you, please join us. Please work all together to get healthcare sustainable again and to make an impact. So with this, at last, just imagine a world where we could have all this, yeah, faster trials, better diagnosis, and fantastic cares, having not diagnosis within years, but days. And health data and AI will bring us this, but it needs all of you, all of us, to work together on this quest. And with this, many thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much for this very insightful keynote. I really love when people bring up use cases and be so concrete. And I would love to live in that future. So we do have 2 minutes left for questions. So, dear audience, is there a question?
I can just speak up. So thank you. That was very interesting. Gmeiner from JJ. Second is obviously kind of important to us too. So 2 questions. The first one is, can you elaborate a bit on the results from the machine learning model? So what were the factors influencing the prediction of the quality of light outcome?
Yeah.
And the second one is the digital twins were experimenting with it as well. How do you go about validating the digital twin?
Many thanks for the question. To the first question, there were factors like BMI, pre-treatment, and the likes. The paper is coming up in the next days to come. Happy to share it with you that you can read it in detail. The second question is a very important one. It's about validation of digital twins. How can we do this? How are we sure we're doing the right thing? And here again, it's a work that needs to be done together with regulatory bodies and other players to be sure that this is validated in the right way. So in short, what we are doing is first, we test this with retrospective data. So data that we already have, where we have a control arm, where we have the model, we apply those and see if they fit. The next one is prospectively. So once we set up a trial, the model is good enough, we'll say, okay, now we have a treatment arm, we have the placebo arm, and then at the very beginning, we simulate the placebo group, and then we see if they match. The next step after this will not be that we omit the comparison at all, but we might change the ratio. Yeah? Not randomizing 50-50, but 80-20, 70-30. Yeah? So then we have a certain ground truth of what is going on, and then seeing that these do overlap, hopefully. And then, of course, you have the typical machine learning tools in general to assess the quality and accuracy of your data by splitting them and yada, yada, yada.